It was supposed to be the trip of a lifetime, backpacking across Europe with my closest friends. We had planned it for months, dreaming of the sights we would see, the experiences we would have. Little did I know that our adventure would turn into a nightmare. We started our journey in Paris, the city of love. Everything seemed perfect at first, including the Eiffel Tower, the Louvre, and the romantic streets. But as the days went by, strange things began to happen. It started with small, unsettling incidents. Items went missing from our hotel room, only to reappear in the most random places. We all shrugged it off, blaming it on our absent-mindedness. But then, one of my friends, Emily, started seeing things. She swore she saw a figure lurking in the shadows, following us. We laughed it off, thinking she was just being paranoid. Our next stop was Rome. The city was bustling with life, but there was an underlying sense of unease. Emily's visions became more frequent and more vivid. She started having nightmares, waking up screaming in the middle of the night. We all were worried about her, but what could we do? As we continued our journey through Europe, the incidents escalated. We started receiving anonymous messages on our phones, threatening messages that seemed to know every detail of our trip. We tried our best to ignore them, but it was impossible. Fear started to creep into our hearts. Then, in Prague, we lost Emily. She disappeared without a trace. We searched for her everywhere, but it was as if she had vanished into thin air. The police were no help, their investigation going nowhere. We were left to continue our journey, haunted by the loss of our friend. The messages became more frequent and more threatening. They knew things about us, things that no one else could possibly know. We were being watched, we were being hunted. We tried to stick together, but it was no use. One by one, my friends started disappearing. Now, I'm alone, wandering the streets of a foreign city. I don't know where to go, what to do, and I'm scared. I can feel the presence of the unknown figure, always lurking in the shadows. I don't know how this will end, but I know one thing for sure. Backpacking across Europe was the worst mistake of my life. I never believed in ghosts until that night in the woods. It was supposed to be a simple backpacking trip, a chance to get away from the noise of the city and reconnect with nature. But what I encountered out there was something far more terrifying than anything I could have imagined. It was the first night of my trip, and I had set up camp near a small secluded lake. The moon was full, casting an eerie glow over the water, and the trees around me seemed to whisper in the gentle breeze. I was tired from the day's hike, so I quickly ate my dinner and crawled into my tent, eager to get some rest. Sleep came easily, but it didn't last long. I was awakened by a strange sound outside my tent. It was a soft, mournful cry, like someone in distress. At first I thought it might be an animal, but the sound was too human-like. I unzipped my tent and peered out into the darkness, but I couldn't see anything. I decided to investigate. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out into the night. The cry seemed to be coming from the direction of the lake, so I made my way towards it. As I got closer, the sound grew louder, and I could see a figure standing at the edge of the water. It was a woman. She was dressed in a long, white gown, her hair billowing in the wind. She was facing away from me, looking out over the lake. I called out to her, asking if she needed help, but she didn't respond. I took a few steps closer, my heart pounding in my chest. Suddenly she turned around, and I saw her face. It was pale and gaunt, her eyes sunken and lifeless. She opened her mouth, and a blood-curdling scream filled the air. I stumbled backward, terrified, and fell to the ground. When I looked up, she was gone. I scrambled to my feet and ran back to my tent, my mind racing. What had I just seen? Was it a ghost? I couldn't explain it, but I knew one thing for sure. I had to get out of there. I packed up my things as quickly as I could and started hiking back towards civilization. As I walked, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see her again, but there was nothing there. I never went backpacking again after that night. I couldn't risk encountering that ghost again. To this day, I still don't know what I saw out there in the woods, but I do know one thing. It was the scariest thing I've ever experienced. I never thought my trip to the store would turn into a nightmare. It was a bright and sunny day, perfect for getting ready for my backpacking adventure. I needed to buy some supplies, so I headed to the local outdoor store, whistling a tune as I walked in. The store was bustling with people, but something felt off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. As I walked down the aisles, my eyes scanned the shelves, looking for items on my list. That's when I saw it, a backpack, unlike any other I had ever seen. It was perched on a high shelf, almost as if it was watching me. I reached up to grab it, and as soon as my fingers touched the fabric, I felt a chill run down my spine. The backpack felt heavy, much heavier than it should have been. I tried to pull it down, but it wouldn't budge. I was about to call for help when I heard a low growl. I turned around slowly, and there, standing in the middle of the aisle, was a creature unlike anything I had ever seen. It was a backpack monster, with straps for arms and a zipper for a mouth. It stood at least 7 feet tall, and its eyes glowed a deep, menacing red. I tried to run, but the monster was too fast. It grabbed me with its strap-like arms and pulled me towards it. I could feel its hot breath on my face as I leaned in close. I struggled to break free, but the monster was too strong. Suddenly, the monster let out a loud, terrifying roar. The sound echoed through the store, causing everyone to scream and run for the exits. I used the distraction to break free from the monster's grasp and make a run for it myself. I didn't stop running until I was back home, safe and sound. I never returned to that store, and I never ended up going backpacking. The backpack monster haunted my dreams for years to come, a constant reminder of the day I encountered something truly terrifying. It was a chilly autumn evening as we ventured into the dense, mysterious woods. My friends and I, eager for adventure, decided to embark on a backpacking trip through the wilderness. The leaves crunched beneath our boots as we navigated the winding trails, the forest alive with the whispers of the wind. As the sun began to set, casting eerie shadows through the trees, we stumbled upon an old abandoned cabin. Intrigued, we decided to explore it. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the scent of decay. As we moved through the dilapidated rooms, we discovered a mysterious wooden box tucked away in a corner. With trembling hands, we pried the lid open, half expecting some ancient evil to be unleashed. Instead, to our utter disbelief, we found a brand new NVIDIA RTX 4090. The sight of the state-of-the-art graphics card, gleaming in the dim light, was a stark contrast to the dilapidated surroundings. We exchanged bewildered glances, unsure of how to react. Was this some sort of elaborate prank? Or had we just stumbled upon a treasure trove of technology in the middle of the wilderness? As we carefully examined the box, we noticed a small note attached to it. The message was cryptic, written in a flowing, elegant script. "Congratulations on your discovery. Use this power wisely, and remember that even in the darkest corners, there is always a glimmer of light." We decided to take the mysterious gift with us, unsure of what the future held. As we left the cabin, the woods seemed less ominous, the shadows less threatening. The NVIDIA RTX 4090, a symbol of technological advancement, had become a beacon of hope in our strange adventure. And so, with our newfound treasure, we continued our journey through the woods, the mystery of the box only adding to the excitement of our backpacking trip. I never thought my backpacking trip with my brother would end up like this. We were two college students, eager to explore the world, and Europe seemed like the perfect place to start. We had planned our trip meticulously, from the bustling streets of Paris to the ancient ruins of Rome, but it was in Prague that everything changed. We had heard about a secluded castle on the outskirts of the city, rumored to be haunted. Of course we were skeptical, but our curiosity got the better of us. We decided to spend the night there, just for the thrill of it. The castle was old and dilapidated, with ivy creeping up its stone walls. We set up our sleeping bags in a large empty room, the only sound the wind howling through the broken windows. As night fell, the atmosphere grew more and more eerie. I was just about to drift off to sleep when I heard a noise. It was a faint scratching sound, coming from somewhere in the castle. I nudged my brother awake, and we both listened in silence. The noise grew louder, and we decided to investigate. We followed the sound to a dark, narrow corridor. At the end of it, we found a heavy wooden door, slightly ajar. We pushed it open, and what we saw inside chilled us to the core. A figure was hunched over a table, its back to us. It was thin and pale, with long, claw-like fingers. As it turned to face us, I saw its eyes, glowing red and filled with an insatiable hunger. My brother and I were frozen in fear. The creature, which we could only guess was a vampire, was upon us in an instant. Its fangs sank into my brother's neck, and I watched in horror as his life drained away. I tried to run, but the vampire was faster. It grabbed me by the throat and pulled me towards it. Just as I thought my life was over, a group of locals burst into the room. They had heard our screams and had come to our rescue. The vampire hissed and recoiled, disappearing into the shadows. The locals led us out of the castle and back to the city. They told us that the vampire had been terrorizing the area for centuries, and that many had fallen victim to its thirst for blood. My brother and I never spoke of that night again. We returned to our normal lives, but the memory of that castle in Prague haunted us forever. I'd always loved the outdoors, the fresh air, the rustling of leaves, and the sense of freedom that came with being surrounded by nature. It was the perfect escape from the hustle and bustle of city life. So when I decided to go on a backpacking trip through the dense woods of the Appalachian Mountains, I was filled with excitement and anticipation. The first few days of my journey were uneventful, just me and the wilderness. I enjoyed the solitude, the peace, and the challenge of surviving on my own. But as the days turned into nights, and the nights grew longer and darker, I began to feel a sense of unease. There was something eerie about the woods at night, something that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. On the fourth night, as I was setting up camp, I heard a rustling in the bushes nearby. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. Was it a bear? A wolf? I slowly turned around, my flashlight illuminating the darkness, and that's when I saw her. She was beautiful, with long dark hair and piercing green eyes, but there was something about her that was off, something that made my blood run cold. She moved with a grace and speed that was unnatural, and her skin was pale, almost translucent. "Hello," she said, her voice soft and melodic. "I'm sorry if I startled you." I couldn't speak, and couldn't move. All I could do was stare at her, my mind racing with questions and fears. "You're camping alone?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. "That's brave. These woods can be dangerous at night." I nodded, still unable to find my voice. She smiled a gentle, reassuring smile. "Don't worry, I won't hurt you. I just wanted to make sure you were okay." As she spoke, I felt my fear begin to dissipate. There was something about her, something that drew me in. And before I knew it, I was telling her about my trip, about my life in the city, about everything. We talked for hours, sitting by the fire, the darkness of the woods surrounding us. And as the night wore on, I found myself feeling more and more comfortable, more at ease. When the sun began to rise, she stood up, stretching her arms above her head. "I should go," she said, her eyes meeting mine. "But I hope we can see each other again." I nodded, a smile spreading across my face. "I'd like that," I said. And so we began to meet regularly, in the woods by the fire. We talked about everything and nothing at the same time, and I found myself falling for her, despite the mystery that surrounded her. It wasn't until one night, when we were walking together through the woods, that I finally asked her the question that had been burning in my mind. "What are you?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She stopped, turning to face me. "I'm a vampire," she said, her eyes searching mine. "But I'm not like the ones you've read about in books. I don't kill, I don't harm, I just want to live, to exist." I nodded, my mind racing with thoughts and questions. But one thing was clear, I didn't care what she was. I cared about her, about the person she was, about the way she made me feel. And so we continued to meet, to talk, and to laugh. And as the days turned into weeks, and the weeks turned into months, I found myself falling more and more in love with her. I realized that the scariest thing in the woods wasn't the darkness, the unknown, or even the thought of encountering a vampire. The scariest thing was the thought of losing her, of never seeing her again. But as long as we were together, as long as we had each other, nothing else mattered.